pleasant good afternoon to you, and welcome to the Daily Share. I'm Joey Jackson. Nice to be with you. You know, the Aaron Hernandez murder trial is back in session today, and we are back in full justice mode this afternoon in Atlanta today. The Daily Share's Yasmin Vasugian, and of course, criminal defense attorney Tanya Miller. Hope you guys are fabulous. Yasmin?
Hi, Joey. Thank you. Listen, Aaron Hernandez has been tweeted about 10,000 times just in the past week, and some of you have been tweeting questions about his murder trial. We want to get right to them because there are so many of them. Up first, William wants to know, and Tanya, we'll start with you. In the Aaron Hernandez trial, can he be found guilty on murder 2 or manslaughter if found not guilty of murder 1?
Well, that depends. I mean, typically in murder cases, defense attorneys often ask for lesser included. Sometimes strategically they don't. But if the facts would support a lesser included, like murder 2, in other words, it wasn't premeditated, or there wasn't any excessive cruelty, or manslaughter, there was some provocation, was it a result of a fight between the two of them, then certainly they could ask for that, and I see this judge giving that kind of instruction.
Joey, if you were the defense attorney in this situation, would you have asked for a lesser charge as well?
Always depends until the end of the case. The charges that you give that jury are predicated upon what the evidence showed in that case. Murder 2, lack of deliberation. There's a lot of plotting and planning that went into this, so if I'm a juror, it's either he planned it with his co-conspirators or he didn't. In terms of manslaughter, provocation, what provocation? Perhaps, but does the evidence go and establish that? So it all depends. Once the evidence is in, Yasmin, whatever that evidence tends to show, that's what the jury is charged upon.
All upon the evidence. All right, today we heard about alleged coded text messages between Hernandez and his fiancee. Hernandez was talking about a box their baby likes to play with in the tub in case, quote, in case she was looking for it. Jen tweeted, but whose 5-month-old plays with a box in a tub? Are these texts effectively raising suspicion in the jurors' minds, Tanya?
They might. I mean, anytime you're talking in code, the natural sort of inclination is, well, what do you have to hide? Why is it that you can't talk like a normal person? The fact that he's referencing a box, I think it was behind the TV, it just seems really bizarre, particularly in light of the question about whether or not his fiancée played any role in getting rid of the gun in this case. So I expect prosecutors to play on those coded text messages, argue that maybe, you know, box is code for box of guns or weapons or ammunition box. Certainly it is going to be something that the defense will have to explain. It is quite questionable.
Joey, is there a new precedence for text messages? I mean, this is a whole new level that we're on, right? 10 years ago, we weren't using text messages as evidence.
It's amazing, and as prosecutor extraordinaire there, Tanya Miller can tell you it's a big to-do about a lot. Why? Because we are in the day and age where we have this surveillance we're seeing play in this case. We've got these text messages. They're decoded. We've got the description. He's texting her. That is his fiancée. She's texting him. You've got text between the co-defendants. That is Mr. Wallace and Mr. Ortiz. And so they play big. And not only do the texts play big, Yasmin, but what do they mean? What's the encryption behind them? And that's something certainly that's subject to the jury's interpretation.
You know, we're talking about a lot about text messages, and I just can't help but think if you've just committed a crime, allegedly, you certainly wouldn't want to put that on text. You want to have a face-to-face conversation, so we don't have evidence like this. Of course, we're hearing a lot of text messages, a lot of them using the slang word, including, you know, the N-word. At Casa Chichi tweeted, younger people text a lot. By the way, does anyone know the ages of the jurors? Well, in Massachusetts, according to Massachusetts state law, we know very little about the jurors. So while we don't know any of their ages, we do know there are 10 women and 6 men, but it's unclear who's an alternate and who's not. Tanya, do you think the demographics of the jury could affect the verdict, considering the amount of text messages?
Always, always. Text messages aside, but certainly, yes, when you have text messaging, when you have slang being used, all of these things are going to be interpreted based upon your demographic. If you're younger, you're going to be more familiar with these words. A lot of young people don't find the use of the N-word as offensive as some older people might. A lot of older people don't text message with the same degree of regularity that young people do. So all of this, I think, is going to have an impact on the case ultimately.
All right, I want to get this last tweet, and a lot of people have been tweeting about the babysitter's testimony where she said she met Odin Lloyd and said Hernandez tried to kiss her. Steve wrote, I don't see how the Hernandez trial nanny's testimony is relevant. Seems prejudicial nature outweighs the probative value. If he's a potential cheater, could jurors see him as a potential killer, Joey, and is that prejudicial?
I think it's certainly a leap. I think certainly that 13th juror there, though, Yasmin, has quite a point. The relevance of the kissing, I'm going to tell you why it's relevant, because there is someone we haven't heard from. I think she's the fiance of Aaron Hernandez. That is Shania Jenkins. And as a result of her listening, you know what? If she gets a little upset, perhaps she gets on that witness stand. But to the extent that he tried to kiss someone at some other time that happened to be a babysitter, might it inflame people? We're in a day and age where I suspect people are tolerant, but we cannot make the leap between a kisser and a murderer. That would be unfair, Yasmin.
Yeah, and we want to keep getting your questions. I'm going to bring them to you guys. We have the experts on board, Tanya and Joey. So tweet us at The Daily Share with your questions throughout the hour, everybody.
Nice to call me an expert, Yasmin. Save that for Tanya Miller. Just kidding, you viewers at home. All right, up next, Aaron Hernandez's fiance. You know what? She's listed on his and Odin Lloyd's phones, respectively, as Mrs. and Boss Lady. Now, could these texts to and from her be keys to the case? We're going to tell you. Stay tuned.